And I know you're very big on doing research for your stories as well. I'm assuming you're researching animals, you're researching social anxiety. Are you reading teen advice columns to get ideas for what kinds of questions teens ask?
Um, I that's it. I did not read teen advice columns, but I did consult teens, and I had some teens who are now grown up. But I did talk to kids to get their feedback on what mattered most to them, and also just spending so much time in schools talking to kids, hearing their questions, hearing what's on their mind and their concerns. I had a lot to go on, but research is incredibly important to me. I don't know if it's the lawyer in me or just as a writer, if I'm writing for anybody, but certainly for kids, respect, authenticity is really at the root of everything I do. I have to honor my readers, right? You have to respect your readers. And the way to do that is to make sure that what you are sharing with them is true. Like I think all great fiction is rooted in something real. And that something has to be authentic, and it has to be vetted. Because if that isn't true, if what I'm sharing, if there's anything in my book that's not correct, then why would they believe all the other things that I'm sharing? Like, I feel out of respect, it is my job to make sure that what I am sharing is accurate. So I have worked with doctors on all of my books because there are always mental health themes woven in. And actually, Dr. Trainer, who's the therapist I worked with on Dear Student and on all of my books preceding this, and we're going to be in conversation at Politics and Prose on the Thursday after the book comes out. And it's virtual. And we're going to be talking a lot about mental health and books, which I'm very...
The launch, will that still be available online someplace where a esteemed audience can track that down?
Yeah, so that is, the book comes out on the 15th, which is Tuesday. It's the 17th, Thursday, and it's Politics and Prose. I will put up a link on, I'll put up links on my website, and I will also be posting online. So if they follow me, they'll be able to register. But I'm excited about that. But I also spoke to a Peace Corps volunteer because the dad goes to the Peace Corps. I spoke to somebody about iguanas and pregnant pythons because I didn't have on-hand knowledge about that. And very wonderfully, there were some teachers who had helped me with some Spanish translations. So, I mean, people are gracious and they're really willing to help and to lend a hand, which I'm most grateful for.
Well, plus there's that promise of maybe I'll be in the acknowledgments of a book, right?
Well, everybody, yes, anybody who helps gets a thank you, because I am so grateful. I couldn't, it really does take a village. Like I can't do this alone, and nor would I ever want to. I think the input from others, the support of others is really where the magic happens.
You mentioned you work with a psychological consultant. I know you have a background. You studied psychology at one point, right?
I did. I majored in psychology in college.
So when you're coming to a new story, since your stories do all have some sort of psychological angle as well as everything else, what's the process of deciding what your next story is going to be? Do you start with, oh, I've got a character and I'm interested, or, oh, I've got a psychological issue that I want to explore, and also at the same time I'm interested in whoopie pies? What?
There's always food in my book.
Makes that all come together.
Right. And I can't have you throw out whoopie pies and not share. There are recipes in the back of the book of whoopie pies because they make them, and they're allergy-free recipes because I'm allergic to a ton of stuff. So you got to make sure, you got to check those out because that was so much fun to make those. But to answer your question, for me, it always starts with character. It is, I mean, it just always starts with a character comes to me. I can't say why. Like, I don't know why. I mean, I wish it was like a precise, I sat down and started thinking about this character that's not really for me. A character kind of comes to me and they have what they have. Autumn had social anxiety. And so that's where it starts for me. I have to connect. Every story that I write has to start with character because I have to connect to their heart. Like, that's how I have to write. I'm not a plot-driven writer. I'm a character-driven writer. I'll never have a chase scene or be able to do that. My hat's off to anybody who can. It doesn't, that process just doesn't work for me from an authentic standpoint. So it usually starts with a character, whether they have social anxiety or hoarding in Give and Take, or Molly had OCD. And then I do the deep dive and research. And all of my books have mental health themes in them because mental health challenges, kids face those. And not talking about it is sending, in my opinion, a message that we shouldn't talk about it. And that's where the stigmas and stereotypes come in, right? If we can have the conversation, if kids can talk about anxiety, if we can talk about that we have social anxiety or OCD or hoarding or whatever the mental health challenge is, then we normalize it. Why is it any different than a kid who goes to get to the doctor when they have a fever, or they go to get a cast on their arm when they break their arm? Why, when they have this invisible hurt, do they button up and don't say anything? I ask kids, when I was on tour for my books and went around the country and spoke to them, like, why? And I said, like, why didn't you share with anybody? Why didn't you tell anybody? And these were the responses they gave me. Well, kids would think I was weird. I don't want them to stop being friends with me. I don't want people to hate me. I'm embarrassed. That is not okay with me. I will write until I cannot write anymore until that goes away. We can't have kids feeling shame about one part of who they are. That's crazy. Nobody's defined by their mental health challenge. Nobody's like the flu for life. Like, why would they, why is that okay to go see a doctor about and talk about, but anxiety isn't? They shouldn't feel embarrassed. So books are a way in. That's the tool I have in my toolbox, is that if I can write about kids who have these experiences, then kids can talk about it, and teachers can talk about it, and families can talk about it. And books show those kids that they're not alone. Books give them the language. Like, I can't tell you how many letters I've gotten, Rob, from kids telling me that they didn't know that anybody else did this stuff, that they didn't know what to call it, they're now getting help. Parents who have written, teachers who have written, kids who've written. Books, they make a difference. They can connect kids and give them the voice they need and the courage they need to take that next step. And so I research a lot. I take these characters as they come, and I kind of fall in love with them. And then I put them in the world, and I hope that kids connect with them, and I hope they start conversations.
And then when you're able to go out and do school visits, Zoom visits, you've got something aside from just the story, although the story is plenty to be talking about, but you've got something to present and to share with the world that goes beyond that, and that can, I assume, relate to a number of fields.
It's really interesting, Rob, and it's such an immense privilege to go into a school pre-pandemic and do a 50-minute presentation, and the amount of honesty and vulnerability that the kids the stories that they are willing to share with me. I was a stranger 50 minutes ago, But now they're willing to share their entire heart with me, that they have OCD, that they don't have friends, that they're scared, that they have they're willing to share their most vulnerable self with me. And I think, I mean, it's because the books I write, the characters they connect with, and those characters they feel that they can trust, they know that they can trust me, and they know that they can share with me, and it's a safe place to land. And that is a huge privilege to be in that position, to get hugs from these kids who are crying, and just to say to them, you know, I believe in you. You are incredibly brave, and you've got this. You're not alone. Like, you will get to the other side. And I think the more kids can hear that, the better it is. I hope kids find their fearless friend.
I imagine that also not in a cold, calculated kind of way, but in a genuine way, because you would never share anybody's information that was shared with you that's going to remain in confidence. But talking to a number of teens, I would imagine that gives you a direct window into what is bothering teens.
Yeah.
You're doing market research, although it's not that you're being a person, you're being, you know, there
Right.
and connected to them. But that is, I assume sooner or later, you're going to pick up something. Oh, I've heard this enough times now that should be a subject of a book for them and for all the people out there who are suffering those types of problems that I'm not meeting in person, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, when kids say what inspires your characters, your books, and I'm like, you guys do. Like, you guys inspire me. You inspire me all the time. And, you know, there's not one character that is one kid I've met in a school or one person in my life or me, but it's sprinklings of all of those experiences. You know, kids often ask, like, is Molly you? Is Autumn you? And I'm like, I can tell you that I have anxiety, and it's something I have struggled with, and it's something I work through, but I am not my characters. I said, and neither are the people in my life, although there are plenty of people in my life who have mental health challenges. I said, if I put all the people in my life in my books, people would stop hanging out with me. I'm like, the animals will love me anyway, but I can't just plunk my family and friends into books and have, you know, and then go out to dinner with them. So they're
good for like one book at best, maybe two, and then you need some new material.
But I said, you know, when you write from your heart, your life experiences are imprinted there, right? So those come out in different ways in your writing and in your characters. So I think there's a touch of me and all the experiences I have. But yes, when kids share with me, it's confidential. Like, I don't put that out there. But I do view it as an incredible privilege that they trust me. And I value that immensely.